I tested the 3 biggest unlimited data tools on 8,999 real companies to find out which one you should actually buy. By the end, you'll know exactly which of the 3 to buy for your situation based on 6 distinct benchmarks that they all went through, or if it's worth it to have 2. If you aren't already familiar with unlimited data vendors, basically what they do is they give you access to unlimited data, like they say, contacts, emails, sometimes valid emails, sometimes phone numbers, depending on the vendor. And it started with blitz-api, and then QuickEnrich was the next kid on the block, and GetLeads is the latest up. And the caveat is they give you a rate limit, and that rate limit will determine ultimately how much data you can pull. However, with all of these vendors, you can get way more data than you can get from any other provider. The difference is you might have to do it over the course of a day instead of instantaneously in certain cases. And I would like to point out that for the most part, they are very API first or agentic first. And so what we did across these 3 vendors is we ran them through a benchmark that covered 6 priority things, which is coverage, deliverability, accuracy, speed, cleanliness, and price, plus a 7th thing, which is just how it felt to use them and what I view as each of them's pros and cons based on my experience. Now, I want to point out 2 things. Before this test, we were a primary user of blitz-api. And the second thing I want to point out is that GetLeads updated their data about 6 days after this test. So in fairness to them, I did a rerun after the fact, and there was a roughly 10% increase in total coverage, okay? So any metric you see here, not 10% base, 10 basis points, a 10% increase in total coverage of what they already had. So that's just a little asterisk next to their stuff. The first data point here, I think, is arguably one of the most important. This is of the company list, how many companies, what percentage of companies were you able to find one contact, a minimum of one contact at? And so GetLeads actually won out on coverage and Blitz came in last. And this is the biggest win for GetLeads in that if you have a huge TAM, even this small percentage difference can be the difference between being able to contact thousands of companies, depending on your tech stack. If you're someone that doesn't want a huge tech stack and don't want to rely on multiple vendors, this is a very, very promising stat for you. And again, I'd like to remind everyone, not affiliated with any of these companies. Blitz is the only company that I've used extensively in the past. So as we get into, the contacts that were actually found, the one thing that you're going to find weird is that 100% of QuickEnrich contacts had an email. Now, as we went through this test, I didn't get the full unlimited subscriptions for every single one of these providers. And so I was trying to be credit sensitive, and QuickEnrich actually has a great feature for that, which is that you can choose to only pull contacts that they know they have emails for. I think it'd be good if GetLeads and Blitz actually adopted that. One of the things that isn't the best when it comes to QuickEnrich is the ratio of invalid emails. Now, the good thing about this is that you're getting them out of the box, which means you're only having to validate them. You're not having to run them through another waterfall of email finders like LeadMagic or TryKit or ICPs. And so you save a lot of money on finding emails because they have such breadth. And you can see they went out very hard in terms of number of valid emails as well as number of catch-all emails. Now, the one shining light, in my opinion, is that Blitz and GetLeads don't tend to really provide too many invalid emails, which I think is actually quite a green flag. Now, we ran each of these through Million Verifier, kept it simple, kept it to the tried and true. And we can see here that QuickEnrich went out quite hard. Now, when we actually tried to recover things through a waterfall, it only got better. So QuickEnrich had 8,537 valid. We ended up doing a waterfall to try to find more emails on these contacts that were valid. And we were able to bump that up just slightly, another 600 contacts. With Blitz and GetLeads, we're also able to see a pretty substantial increase of around 1,500 for both of them, with Blitz seeing the biggest increase of almost 2,000, actually. And now, what this tells you is that you can still get a good volume of data from Blitz and GetLeads. The only difference is that you're probably going to have other tools on the back end that help you fill in those data gaps. Whereas QuickEnrich gives you the most surface area up front. And yeah, honestly, this really surprised me. Now, the thing is that no one actually wins on every segment. So depending on who you're targeting, you may want to use a different provider. The thing that really stuck out to me here is that GetLeads may have a problem with indexing new companies. And that could just be down to the way they're custom scraping on the back end. I use Disco-like for the most part to find newer companies because they tend to index the entire internet. But I was actually quite impressed by the coverage of Blitz when it came to funded companies. Now, it's important to note that none of these are perfect. And I'm going to give you a ton of tips at the end on things that you can use in order to increase your coverage and increase your surface area for well beyond what an unlimited data provider can give you. But these unlimited data providers, I think, give most go-to-market teams a fantastic first step in their workflow. So Blitz ended up winning out on micro companies, with QuickEnrich doing the worst there. And where QuickEnrich really seems to shine is on enterprise and mid-market. Now, it's important to note that I only capped out each of those contact finds to 4 contacts per company. And the reason for that is because I didn't want one company that was really good at enterprise to be able to pull in, 10,000 Microsoft contacts and just win out the entire thing. And so we had micro, we had SMB, we had mid-market, and we had enterprise. And we went through and basically just ran a script on the entire test based on the employee count. I also enriched the employee count and the LinkedIn data of every single business that we had in this test to get their up-to-date LinkedIn data. So we can actually see the quality of both their coverage when it comes to these companies, but also the quality of their data about the companies in terms of headcount, funding, et cetera. Now, the next thing that we did is we wanted to find out how often the data is just plain wrong. And so not only did we do that on the company data, we did on the individual data as well. About a year ago, I had a post go pretty big on the fact that we check every single contact that comes through. We check their LinkedIn with Clagent, and we want to make sure that they still work at the company that Apollo says they work at, especially because Apollo data was getting very, very stale, very, very fast. And so we did the same thing here. We wanted to see what percentage of these contacts that we found valid emails on, as well as contacts we found invalids on, because who says you don't want to sequence through LinkedIn? What percentage of them still work at the company that these providers and these vendors think they work at? And the results should not actually surprise you, to be honest. 70% is actually good. When we were doing this on Apollo, we were finding as many as 50% of contacts weren't working at the companies that these providers said they were, or even with Trigify, it was actually a really big problem with our intent-based campaigns. And that's why we switched off of them, because we were spending a lot of money trying to figure out if the contact that came from the intent actually worked at the place it thought it worked at. And so you can see QuickEnrich is, again, leading the pack. And again, very surprising. But this has really changed my tune on to which provider I should be using. But that's not to say that there aren't other advantages to these other providers. So as we move on here, we checked against industry mismatches based on LinkedIn description, based on the LinkedIn scrape, and based on the homepage scrape to identify where there is some drift between industries. And then we moved on to a speed and reliability check. And so there is one caveat here. Blitz was the slowest, had the most errors, and it has the lowest rate limit. However, although GetLeads has this 4,090 millisecond response time, they do have a batch endpoint, which makes it so technically, if you're running it in batches, you could get the highest concurrency out of GetLeads, especially through their MCP. And that comes with a caveat in that the GetLeads CLI was actually quite a struggle to use. But I will say this, GetLeads provided as well, alongside Blitz, provided the best resources for getting this set up in something like Claude Code. Blitz has skills out of the box. GetLeads has a very good MCP. I ended up using that for the test because their CLI wasn't perfect. Now, QuickEnrich was the fastest outside the batch API, but also the hardest to set up. So I want to leave that there. Now, with Blitz, they also do ship some duplicates and dead URLs. So one of the other things we did is we checked to see if companies were still alive. An aliveness check is good. Does their domain still actually return any sort of data? And so we scraped every single domain, and it turned out that Blitz had the most stale company domains, as well as duplicate rows. Now, in terms of overlap, there wasn't actually as little overlap as I thought there would be. Blitz was able to find the most companies, as we know, and this is just company level overlap. QuickEnrich coming in second and GetLeads coming in third. But the interesting thing about GetLeads was the breadth of their data. So they don't have full coverage on all of them, but you can find some pretty unique data that typically I only expect out of like a more premium provider that isn't unlimited, like AIArc, which is our secondary provider after an unlimited data vendor these days. Now let's go through some pros and cons. For me, the biggest pro to Blitz is their API surface area. So when you get the Blitz API, barring being blocked from getting mobile numbers, you get access to some very valuable endpoints, including the number of people across departments, how many people are distributed by country, so you can see if they have remote workers. And you also get some nice ease of use enrichments like domain to LinkedIn URL or LinkedIn URL to domain, and of course, company enrichment. Now, for me, this isn't necessarily enough for them to take the cake over some of these other providers. Because for me, I think unlimited data providers, it's about speed and it's about how many emails they can find. For the most part, breadth of data depends on who you are, but for me isn't quite as important because if I need extra data, I'll just go and pursue it. It's a little bit more expensive if you want mobile data. And they're a little bit slower, but lots of ease of use when it comes to their skills native to Claude Code and getting it set up. And they have the best firmographic coverage when it comes to company data. Whereas GetLeads has the highest number of findable contacts across companies. So what does that mean? You will find at least one contact at the most companies with GetLeads, according to this test. They have the best small business coverage. They have phone numbers at the base tier. Their outputs are fairly clean. And they have a deep catalog. Look here, 184 fields, and they're easy to use via MCP. Plus, they're bringing a lot of really cool stuff to the platform. I mean, you're going to be able to pull in company followers, potentially do some LinkedIn profile monitoring. And knowing the founder, I know that he's going to do a great job because I've used tools he's actually managed to exit in the past. But for me, it's not my winning candidate. And the amazing reason for that is because I have a few of those tools in-house. However, when it comes to cons, bulk export, this says slow. I wouldn't say it was slow, but it had limits. The bulk path was showing a fraction of its depth via the CLI, but most of these cons are eliminated outside of coverage when using the MCP. For me, the winner, and I think the tool that my team's going to be switching to, is going to be QuickEnrich. Not only do you have the most breadth of contacts, you have the freshest contacts, you have the cleanest industry data for the industries it can find, but you also have this $99 unlimited plan, which should not be listed as a con. That's hilarious. And you have an interface that you can actually pull from to get data, which makes it even more unlimited and also easier to check, right? So you can kind of visually see what filters are doing in an interface, which is why I'm a big fan of AIArc in the first place. I like tools that don't index too hard into agent first. I want them to be agent first, but human compatible as well. So what are the costs like? Unlimited API is $399 for QuickEnrich. So it comes out to the cheapest, gives you phone numbers included in that. For Blitz, it comes out to $499 with emails included. And for GetLeads, $497. And you can pay a little bit extra if you want to get some of those extra features like company followers, as well as monitoring LinkedIn profiles. Now, how do you increase your coverage and surface area beyond that? And this is a which should you buy, kind of up to you. Base it off of this report. If you need certain types of data, one company is going to be better for you. If you just need as much data as possible, I think QuickEnrich wins. If you want to run two of them with maximum coverage, it's going to be QuickEnrich plus GetLeads. It'll bring you up to 74% coverage. If you want even more coverage beyond that, you're going to want to come over here. Literally today, Parallel dropped this turbo search API as well as, but also a free credit tier. And this gives you 5,000 free searches per month. Parallel plus actually scraping the domains of the companies that you're targeting is going to be the best way to increase your total surface area. Or potentially from there, also setting up your own email guessing system, which actually friend here, Eric Nowoslavsky, did an entire video about. You can find on his YouTube, just building it real time inside Claude Code. And what this is going to give you is 10 results per search. But the difference is that this is like a specialized search engine, a neural search engine. And it's able to do much better discovery than Google can. And it's not as influenced as SEO rankings or anything like that. And so for most companies, you're going to immediately find what is on LinkedIn for them today, right? For a tenth of a cent. And you get up to 10 results. So that means you can get up to 10 leads for a tenth of a cent. And this is what we use as our fallback. So SERPRDev for the easy ones, parallel search beyond that. And then for any companies you really can't find anything for, scraping the website, which can be for free through Crawl for AI. Or you can use something like Spider if you want something super blazing fast for crawling websites. Now, back to the presentation. And this is the entire process. If you want the full contact data set from all three vendors, I'm giving that away. All you have to do is add your email here, and you can find the link in the description below. But this is the baseline process. I'll also be sharing in the description below a more detailed version of the process. If you want more free stuff, including that, opt into the newsletter. And if you want us to run a free campaign for you, click the form below and apply. And we'll send 5,000 emails to dream contacts in your market to prove cold email can work for you. Take care.